The dining hall at Ravenfield Base was meant to be the safest corner of the compound, a small pocket of calm where soldiers could grab a meal, loosen their shoulders, and forget for a few minutes that they were still living inside a war zone. When Tara Holt reported for her morning shift, flipping pancakes and brewing coffee for 200 hungry troops, most only noticed her long enough to compliment breakfast or thank her for the caffeine. She looked like any quiet cook in her white uniform and apron, clocking in at 0400 every day to start prep. But that illusion broke the morning. 37 armed militants breached the perimeter at dawn, moving fast toward the command center and making one fatal miscalculation. They thought the dining hall was an easy capture. What they found instead was a Navy SEAL making breakfast with a rifle hanging 3 feet away. Some people serve food, others serve justice. Tara Holt was about to do both. At 31, she'd spent 8 years in the SEALs before a high-altitude parachute insertion wrecked her knee badly enough to remove her from active operations. It healed enough for normal duty, but not for the relentless rucking, running, and explosive movement that special operations work demanded. Instead of accepting medical discharge, she requested transfer to support duty. Command found it odd. SEALs didn't usually ask to cook, but Tara had been clear. She wanted to stay in uniform, stay deployed, and stay useful. If she couldn't fight on the front line, she'd find another way to contribute. That's how she ended up cooking at Ravenfield Base, a remote outpost in Eastern Territory near the mountain border that housed about 300 coalition troops hunting insurgents in the region. Her assignment raised eyebrows. A decorated SEAL volunteering for kitchen duty sounded like waste or denial, but Tara knew exactly what she was doing. Ravenfield was small enough that everyone knew everyone, isolated enough that supplies came rarely, and active enough that attacks were routine. She'd spent years chasing enemies through these same valleys. Now she was stationed where they loved to strike. Same war, different task, still service. And she genuinely loved to cook. Growing up in Louisiana, her grandmother had taught her Cajun patience. Flavor takes time, discipline, and care. The Army could feed soldiers. Tara made sure it tasted like home. The Ravenfield dining hall was a reinforced concrete shell built to feed 200 at a time. She ran the morning shift, reporting before dawn to prepare breakfast for patrols heading out. 3 soldiers worked under her, 2 privates handling service and cleanup, and 1 logistics specialist managing supplies. All 3 were capable, and at first they were surprised to learn their supervisor had once been a SEAL. But they quickly saw she ran the kitchen with the same discipline and ruthless efficiency she'd used in the field. Everything in the kitchen has a specific place, Tara told them in the first week. Everything gets cleaned immediately after use. Mise en place, everything in its place, isn't just a cooking habit, it's an operational mindset. When things go wrong, you don't want to be hunting for gear or supplies. They nodded then, puzzled that a cook talked like she was training them for combat. They would understand soon enough. The morning of the attack began like any other. Tara arrived at 400, flipped the lights, fired up grills and ovens, and set about prepping the breakfast service due to start at 6:30. Eggs, bacon, sausage, pancakes, hash browns, the standard fare soldiers expected. She moved with trained economy of motion, every gesture efficient from thousands of hours of repetition. Her white apron was the issued kind, stained with grease no washing could fully remove. Her hair pulled into a tight bun to keep it out of the food and out of the way. What wasn't standard was the M4A1 carbine hanging on a hook 3 feet from the prep station, fitted with a 30-round magazine and 2 spare mags in a pouch beside it, technically against dining facility regs, since weapons belong cleared in the armory except for patrols or guard duty. Tara had, however, earned special permission from the base commander. a pragmatic officer who'd read her record and decided an experienced SEAL on the compound was worth the exception. The compromise was simple. The rifle stayed secured in the kitchen, and only she had access. "You really think you'll need that rifle while making pancakes?" one of the helpers asked that first week. "Hope not," Tara said. But hope isn't a strategy. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. At 05:30, while she flipped a pancake, the base alarm screamed, the distinctive siren meaning the base was under attack. That wasn't unheard of at Ravenfield. It took mortar harassment and small arms probes fairly regularly, usually driven off by return fire from towers and a quick reaction force, and usually over in 20 minutes. Protocol called for non-defenders to move to bunkers while guards returned fire and the QRF deployed. Tara heard the alarm, acknowledged it, and kept cooking. Soldiers still needed to eat, and only something worse than routine harassment would make her abandon the kitchen. Her 3 assistants exchanged uncertain looks. "Shouldn't we go to the bunkers?" they asked. Tara answered calmly. "The dining facility is rated for indirect fire. We're safer here than crossing open ground to a bunker. Keep prepping. They're going to be hungry after they sort this out." None of them knew yet this wasn't a harassment attack. 37 heavily armed militants had slipped through the wire from 3 directions in the dawn gloom, exploiting knowledge of Ravenfield's defenses to penetrate deep before detection. This was a coordinated assault with a clear objective: reach the command center, kill or capture senior officers, and hold the base long enough for a propaganda win. The attackers had split into 4 teams, one striking the command center, another suppressing guard towers, a third seizing the vehicle depot to block reinforcements, and a fourth, 8 fighters with AK-47s and a PKM, tasked with taking the dining facility. Tactically, it made sense. The mess hall gathers dozens for breakfast, becomes a place to take hostages, fortify positions, and stage a headline grabbing victory. Their intelligence said the DFAC was staffed by cooks and support troops, soft targets who wouldn't resist. They were badly mistaken. Their planners had assumed soft targets who wouldn't fight back. Their intel was badly wrong. At 05:35, Tara froze mid-flip when she heard a crack that didn't belong at the perimeter but much closer. The unmistakable bark of an AK-47 maybe 100 meters away. That sound meant the wire had been punched and hostiles were inside the compound. She set the spatula down with deliberate calm. "Everyone, kitchen office now," she ordered, voice flat but absolute. The 3 soldiers followed her into the small office off the kitchen while Tara produced a key and opened a cabinet they'd never seen opened before. Inside lay 3 M4 carbines with magazines in place, 3 sets of body armor, and 3 combat first aid kits. "Vest on, weapon up. Get behind cover and dry storage," she instructed. "If anyone comes through that door who isn't U.S. military, you engage." "What about you?" the specialist asked, face drained. "I'll make sure nobody gets through that door," Tara said, and grabbed her M4 from the hook by the prep station, tore off her apron, and ran a practice check. Chamber loaded, safety off, ready. Outside, the clack of AKs multiplied, the deeper staccato of a PKM threaded through, and friendly M4s answered. The quick reaction force was moving, but surprise bought the attackers room to push deep. The dining hall had 3 entry points: a main doorway from the central compound, a side entry by the kitchen loading area, and a rear emergency exit. And Tara slid into a position that gave her sight lines to all 3, while the concrete support pillar ate incoming rounds. Through the windows, she watched muzzle flashes and troops running, a chaotic mix of uniforms and hostile figures. Then the side door exploded inward under a kick, and 2 men in chest rigs barreled through with AKs, expecting cooks and panicked hands. Instead, they found Tara Holt already in a firing stance with her M4 on them. She engaged with controlled pairs, 2 shots sent her mass on the first, 2 on the second, and both went down before they could react. Door opened to 2 threats neutralized in 1.2 seconds. She keyed the radio, dining facility under attack. The Tactical Operations Center answered fast. All personnel, dining facility under assault, hold position. QRF responding. More attackers slammed the side entry, 3 men firing as they ran. Tara was behind concrete that absorbed 7.62 mm impacts, waiting for a pause, then exposing herself just long enough to lay down controlled bursts of 3 to 4 rounds across the threat line. 1 man dropped, another dove behind a prep table and returned fire. When a third tried to flank, Tara put 4 rounds through the table, and the second went down from rounds that punched through thin metal. The flanker tried to flee, and she shot him in the back as he ran. No mercy, no hesitation. This was combat, not sport. 5 hostiles down, side entrance, she transmitted. Her radio crackled. Tara, this is talk. We have eyes on your position via security cameras. Tara, we count 8 to 10 hostiles converging on your position. They're treating the DFAC as a priority target. Can you hold? The voice asked through static. She checked her ammo. Roughly 20 rounds spent, 10 left in the mag, and 2 full 30-round spares. 60 rounds total against a force that had no clue what they were walking into. I can hold, she transmitted, but I'll take backup when QRF frees up. Negative, came the reply. QRF's pinned at command. You're on your own for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, facing multiple attackers, guarding 3 unarmed soldiers, and keeping a critical facility out of enemy hands. She accepted it without hesitation. Understood. Holt out. She slid to a new firing position. Staying put was how you died, and took cover behind the serving line, which gave her both concealment and good angles on every entrance. The main doors burst open. 4 fighters stormed in, moving with the precision of men who'd drilled together. They scattered for cover behind tables and metal equipment, scanning for threats. Tara let them enter fully, let them believe the space was clear, then fired from an angle they hadn't cleared, hitting the last man in line first and working forward. It was textbook. Drop the rear, and the front stays confused just long enough to finish the job. By the time the lead gunman realized what was happening, 3 of his teammates were down, and Tara was already shifting aim. He fired back, AK rounds hammering the serving line inches from her face. She ducked, sidestepped 3 feet, rose again, and stitched 5 rounds through his chest before he could realign his sights. 4 more down, main entrance, she reported, swapping magazines with automatic precision. Drop, seat, tap, chamber check, ready again in 2 seconds. Outside, gunfire surged. M4s, M240s, and even the hollow whoosh of an AT-4 somewhere downrange. The defenders were hitting back, but the attackers still had numbers. 2 gunmen appeared at the rear emergency exit, thinking it undefended. Tara had already accounted for that. As soon as they breached, she met them with short, surgical bursts. Both dropped before taking a second step inside. 11 hostiles down. Her rifle ran flawlessly, maintained to perfection because she knew in combat reliability was survival. Each shot landed exactly where she intended. Muscle memory handled mechanics, while her mind tracked the next threat, calculating where and when the next wave might hit. Then came a sound she hadn't expected so soon. The sharper crack of friendly M4s closing in, American voices shouting commands. QRF was pushing her way, but the enemy wanted one last breakthrough. 3 fighters rushed the main doors while 2 came through the side. Split entry, Multi-angle assault. Tara assessed instantly. The trio at the front posed greater firepower, so she prioritized them first, cutting them down in controlled bursts before pivoting toward the side. Rounds hissed past, one grazing her sleeve, another sparking against steel near her head. She dropped flat, firing from the floor at an angle they hadn't anticipated. Both side door attackers collapsed. Silence followed. No more incoming fire. Then came the shout of friendlies. Friendly approaching from your 6. Hold your fire. Friendly position acknowledged, Tara answered, lowering her weapon. DFAC secure. 16 hostiles down. No friendly casualties. The QRF team stormed in. 8 soldiers in full kit, weapons raised, clearing corners. Their leader, Sergeant First Class Williams, froze mid-step when he saw Tara standing amid debris and bodies. Her kitchen whites dusted in soot, M4 still steady in her hands. Jesus Christ, Holt, he breathed, scanning the wrecked room. You did all this? You did all this? Williams asked, staring around the wrecked dining hall. They tried to breach the DFAC, Tara answered evenly, setting her weapon on safe. I discouraged them. Williams moved through the room, counting bodies, verifying each target. 16? You dropped 16 hostiles by yourself? 17, Tara corrected softly. One's outside. He tried to run. By yourself, he repeated, incredulous, while wearing an apron. I took it off before engaging, she said. Didn't want to get it dirty. Williams let out a shaky laugh, the kind that comes when adrenaline starts to fade. I read your file when you got here, he said. 8 years as a SEAL, multiple deployments, blacked out ops, but watching you serve pancakes every morning, I kind of forgot what you used to be. I'm still a SEAL, Tara replied quietly. I just happen to be serving food right now. Across Ravenfield Base, the wider fight had ended. The command center had held through a brutal firefight. Guard towers suppressed the pushes on the perimeter. The vehicle depot stood untouched. And the dining hall, the attackers' soft target, had become a kill zone that shattered nearly half their assault force. Of the 37 militants who'd breached the wire, 17 died or were wounded trying to take the DFAC. The rest were hunted down by base defenders until the sun rose over silence. By dawn's full light, the attack was done. 31 enemy casualties, only minor Allied injuries. 2 hours later, the base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Hendricks, stepped into the dining facility and found Tara back in the kitchen, resuming breakfast prep while forensics teams cataloged shell casings around her. Sergeant Holt, Hendricks said, scanning the room. I need your full after-action report. Of course, ma'am, Tara replied, cracking eggs into a bowl. But first, are the troops still expecting breakfast? Because I've got 200 soldiers who probably worked up an appetite repelling that attack. Hendricks stared, then half smiled. You're seriously going to serve breakfast after fighting off 17 attackers. The fight's over, ma'am. Soldiers still need to eat. That's my job. Your job was cook, Hendricks said slowly. What you did this morning was far beyond cooking. I'm a SEAL who happens to cook, ma'am, Tara answered. When the base is attacked, I defend it. When it's calm, I feed the people who defended it. Both matter. Hendricks exhaled, nodding. Fair enough. Yes, the soldiers still want breakfast, but after that, we're talking about your assignment. At 800, 2 hours late, Tara served breakfast to a line that stretched out the door. Nobody complained. Word had already spread about the cook who'd stood her ground, the SEAL in an apron who turned the dining hall into a fortress. Some soldiers thanked her for breakfast. Others thanked her for saving their lives. A few just stared, struggling to reconcile the quiet woman behind the counter with the legend that morning had forged. When cleanup finished at 1000, Tara sat down in Hendrix's office. The commander had been reviewing security footage. "Your performance was exceptional, doesn't even cover it," Hendrix said. "You were professional, precise, lethal. You held a critical position against overwhelming odds without a single friendly casualty." "I had cover and clear fields of fire," Tara replied modestly. "They walked into a prepared defender's kill zone. Advantage was mine." "Advantage doesn't get you 17 confirmed kills in 10 minutes, Hendrix said flatly. "Skill does, training does, experience does." She pulled a file from her desk. "I'm recommending you for the Silver Star for valor, and also recommending we revisit your current posting." Tara straightened. "With respect, ma'am, I asked for this assignment." "I know," Hendrix replied, "and I approved it. You earned the right to choose after your injury pulled you from active operations, but you're far too capable to stay behind a serving line forever." "But Tara, you're too valuable flipping pancakes when you could be put to work using the skills you actually have," Hendrix said. "With respect, ma'am, I am using my skills," Tara replied. "I fed 200 soldiers this morning, and I defended the base when it was attacked. Both matter." Hendrix studied her for a long beat. "You really want to stay in the kitchen?" "I want to stay useful, ma'am. My knee won't let me run and ruck with a SEAL team anymore, but I can cook, I can shoot, and I can defend this base when it needs defending. That's useful." Hendrix considered that, then made the call. Tara could stay in the kitchen with one change. She'd be the dining facility manager and the QRF reserve sniper. When the base was under attack, defensive operations came first, not pancakes. "Deal?" Hendrix asked. "Deal, ma'am," Tara answered. 2 weeks later, Tara received the Silver Star in a ceremony the entire base attended. The citation praised conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action, and credited Sergeant Holt's marksmanship, tactical acumen, and courage with preventing hostile forces from seizing a critical facility and directly neutralizing 17 enemy combatants. The medal felt heavy in her hand. The recognition mattered, but the moment Tara treasured most came after the ceremony when a young private found her in the mess. "Sergeant Holt," he said, "I was in the bunker during the attack. I was scared, but knowing you were defending the DFAC made me feel safer. Thank you." Tara had spent 8 years as a SEAL on classified missions no one would read about, operating in the most dangerous places on Earth and earning a reputation for excellence. The injury that ended her operational career forced her to find another way to serve, and she chose cooking because she genuinely loved it, and because it let her stay deployed and useful in a different role. She'd known the base could be attacked. She'd prepared quietly while hoping it never happened. When the day came, she was ready, and she proved a cook isn't helpless. A damaged knee might take you off a SEAL team, but it couldn't erase training, skill, or a warrior's mindset. Everyone had assumed the quiet woman in kitchen whites was merely a cook until an enemy team learned otherwise and met a Navy SEAL in an apron who could both feed and fight. Tara Holt returned to 0400 wake-ups and breakfast prep the next day, serving troops who now appreciated not only the food, but the person making it. Her rifle stayed on the hook by the prep station, loaded and ready, because hope isn't a strategy, and the best defenders are the ones nobody expects. 6 months later, a new rotation arrived at Ravenfield Base. During their first breakfast, a young lieutenant watched Tara serve pancakes and asked his platoon sergeant, "Who's the cook?" The sergeant, a veteran of the siege, smirked. "That's Sergeant Holt, former SEAL. She held off 17 attackers right here while making breakfast." The lieutenant frowned. "The cook is a SEAL?" "No, sir," the sergeant corrected. "She's a SEAL who happens to cook. There's a difference, And if this base ever gets hit again, you'll be damn glad she's the one between you and your breakfast." Tara overheard and smiled quietly while flipping another batch. Some people never stopped being warriors. They just found new ways to serve. And sometimes the most dangerous person on a base was the one wearing an apron. Years later, after returning to the States and retiring from the Navy, Tara opened a small Cajun restaurant in her hometown of New Orleans. It became known for its flawless food and the calm owner who rarely spoke about her military past. Above the kitchen door hung a framed silver star and a photo. Tara, in kitchen whites, M4 rifle in hand, standing in the Ravenfield dining hall the morning after the attack. Regulars often asked about it. She'd smile and say, "I used to cook in some interesting places." What she never said was that discipline, precision, and performance under pressure translated perfectly from combat to cooking. Both demanded excellence. Both were service. She had once been a warrior who learned to cook, then a cook who remembered how to fight. Now she was both, and that was enough. One evening, a young woman in a Navy uniform entered, pausing to study the photo before approaching the counter. "You're Sergeant Holt," she said, "the SEAL who defended the dining hall." "I am," Tara replied. "Can I get you something to eat?" "I'm starting SEAL training soon. Everyone told me it's impossible for women. Then I read about you. You proved we belong." Tara set down her spatula and met her gaze. "You don't have to prove you belong," she said. "Just earn it like everyone else. Sit down. Warriors eat free here." As the young woman ate, Tara moved through her kitchen with the same fluid precision she once brought to the battlefield, glancing through the service window at the recruit studying that old photo, maybe seeing her own future reflected in it. Tara remembered what it felt like to be that determined, that hungry to prove herself, to hear the doubters and answer them not with words, but with results. Her injury had once seemed like the end of everything, but it taught her that warriors don't stop being warriors just because one path closes. They adapt, they serve differently. They remind the world that strength isn't only muscle, it's mind, heart, and spirit. Some people define themselves by what they've lost. Tara Holt defined herself by what she could still give. And that made all the difference. This is Major Tom's Tales. Thanks for watching, because every warrior has a story worth telling.